All right. I guess I'm going to talk a little bit, like I said in the top clip, that I'm going to talk a little bit about the retirement of Drew Brees and just sort of his impact on sports and his wider impact on the country and things like that. And so, Drew Brees obviously was a NFL quarterback for the Saints for a number of years, and obviously great career, being capped off obviously by a Super Bowl MVP and Super Bowl win. He also has the record for most passing yards in a career, and I believe the second or third most, no, the third most touchdowns ever recorded by a quarterback in the NFL. And so these are obviously, good accomplishments, Pro Bowl, numerous Pro Bowls and things like that. And I think dove in a little bit more underneath the surface of Drew Brees. And I think one event in his whole career that kind of changed not just his course or ability, because obviously he came from a small football school, or at least a lesser known football school in Purdue University out of West Lafayette, Indiana, which isn't a traditional football power, or the state of Indiana really isn't a breeding ground for NFL talent or even great college talent. But obviously there are notable exceptions, Drew Brees being one. But I think the seminal moment in his career was when he was traded to the Saints, and I guess this came at the backdrop of Hurricane Katrina, which was obviously changing in a number of ways to not only the city of New Orleans but that region as a whole. And so you kind of got to see some of the things that went into not just um, the rebuilding of New Orleans, because obviously the Saints play um, at the Superdome, which was a place where a lot of people had sought refuge after the storm, or shortly before the storm made landfall in New Orleans. And so there was potentially the opportunity for Drew Brees to go to, I believe, the Miami Dolphins, and he sort of, I don't remember the entire details, but I believe that he failed a physical. What that ever entailed, I don't really know. I think there was something wrong with his hand or shoulder or something like that in his upper body, but he failed it, and so he got the opportunity to go to the Saints in a trade. And so even when the Saints um, were playing their season, they obviously had to play somewhere else besides New Orleans because of the devastation and things like that. And so, just looking at the history of the Saints, Drew Brees was able to take a team that historically had been pretty abysmal. For the longest time, they were called the New Orleans Aints because of just their losing records and things like that. And he took them potentially into another stratosphere with having winning seasons. Obviously, in recent years, they haven't had the playoff success that they wanted, but I think he not only changed the culture of the Saints into a winning culture, but also I believe by and large he revitalized the city of New Orleans by having such a good team play there, and also the fact that, and my belief is that he sort of saved the Saints from moving out of New Orleans. And if you look at the just sort of the history of that, of teams moving in the NFL, there's been several movers recently, but historically, there was the Baltimore Colts who moved to Indianapolis, Indiana. There was the Cleveland Browns who became the Baltimore Ravens, and then eventually the Browns were reincarnated later down the road. But also, the Rams going from Los Angeles to St. Louis and then back to Los Angeles. And so there is a history of teams moving in the NFL. Those just being a few that I can name off the top of my head, but there's also been several others. And so I think, when they do make the statue of Drew Brees eventually in the city of New Orleans, they have to put him down as the savior that team, of that city. And so, you know, by and large, I think you have to thank Drew Brees for all that he's done and just being who he is. I think he's a pretty good guy. I think he received some flack over the whole national anthem uh, controversy, but I don't think he really had any ill intention or anything like that. I think he took the view of most people is that, it's just a show and sign of respect, whether or not you agree with the policies in the country or that police brutality is bad. Obviously, there is other things that go along with being a leader, and sometimes you have to take those uncomfortable positions. And so, I just like to thank Drew Brees for all the great seasons. Obviously, being a Bears fan, he beat us a number of times, and we had the opportunity to beat, you know, the Saints quite a few times. Obviously, recently, just this year, and the Bears lost to the Saints, which was, Drew Brees' last victory in the playoffs and his second to last game. So it really is something that was quite emotional uh, to see that he potentially will be ending the season or along with his career. And so, just like to thank Drew Brees for all the wonderful seasons that he's given not only the city of New Orleans but all NFL fans and people who are just true fans of the game. And I just thank him for all the wonderful memories and fondness that happened with the New Orleans Saints because they are my second team away from home. And so I actually think no, yeah, I was gonna say I was probably halfway between the Chicago Bears and the Saints, but the Saints are definitely a favorite of mine. Just the whole black and gold, their uniforms are pretty legit, and so City of New Orleans is gonna miss them. The Saints are gonna miss them, and just like to thank Drew Brees. So have a good season. I mean, good rest of your life.